Yeah, my faith has really grounded me. It's kept me in a place where I've been grateful for everything that's happened, that's been thrown my way. It's kept me humble to not take anything.
Over the past 3 games, Angel Reese has gone 8 for 26 from the field, which when you consider that most of those shots are just layups around the rim, is not only statistically poor but also visually frustrating for anyone who values efficient basketball, because layups are supposed to be the highest percentage shots in the sport, and her primary offensive diet comes from getting rebounds, going right back up, and finishing close. Yet she's missing far too many of them, and that's a problem. That extends beyond just her stat sheet. It speaks to the image of the WNBA as a whole when your second most popular player in the entire league is struggling with the most basic aspects of scoring. For many casual viewers who've maybe never watched a WNBA game before but have heard her name alongside Caitlin Clark's as part of the biggest rivalry in women's basketball, that first impression matters tremendously, because if a fan tunes in expecting to see an elite, dominant star and instead sees missed point-blank layups, awkward finishes, and overall inefficient offense, their takeaway might not just be Angel Reese is struggling but the WNBA is a joke. And that's a dangerous perception problem when you're trying to grow the league's audience. Now, is she a good role player? Yes, she can be, and last season she actually played that role effectively, finishing better around the rim, grabbing double-digit rebounds regularly, and creating extra possessions for her team in ways reminiscent of an NBA comp like Andre Drummond, a player who's been elite at rebounding but never considered a franchise cornerstone or face of the league, which is exactly the issue here, because while Drummond has been valuable, no one tunes in to watch him specifically, no one puts him in the same conversation as Steph Curry or LeBron James. And likewise, putting Angel Reese into the conversation with Caitlin Clark, a player who can truly take over a game from anywhere on the floor, is setting her up for inevitable disappointment in the public eye. It's not fair to her, because she's just trying to hoop, develop her game, and contribute. Yet the media and fan narratives have elevated her into a spotlight she hasn't earned on court yet, turning her into a lightning rod for debates she never asked for. So when she misses a layup against someone like Natasha Howard, a player widely regarded as a below-average interior defender, it becomes more than just a missed basket. It becomes another talking point in the WNBA quality conversation, which is unfair to the other players who are performing at a superstar level. Take that fever game. For example, early on, Reese gets the ball in the low post against Howard, easily gets around her because Howard plays poor positional defense and doesn't seal off the lane, and has an uncontested shot at the rim, and she misses. That's not about size, strength, or defensive pressure. That's just poor execution, and when it happens multiple times in a game, including on offensive rebound putbacks where she's got no real contest at the rim, it starts to feel like a chronic issue. Worse, it's compounded by the fact that she herself has said people are watching the WNBA because of her, which means those viewers, especially new ones, are judging the sport through her performance. So when they see an unsteady layup form, out-of-control finishes, and point-blank misses, it's not just her brand that suffers, the league's brand suffers too. And to be clear, none of this is about personality, skin color, or anything off the court. It's purely a basketball conversation, and purely about what's happening between the lines. But basketball is the product here, and when the second most recognizable player in your league is shooting around 30% from the field while primarily taking high-percentage shots, that's a glaring issue. She doesn't need to be Caitlin Clark, she doesn't need to be Nika Ogwimik, but she does need to hit layups if her role is to rebound and finish inside, because when you strip away all the hype, all the TikTok fame, all the celebrity, athlete narrative, her value to her team, and her ability to help grow the game will ultimately come down to how well she performs her job on the floor. And right now, she's not performing it well, which is why the league would benefit from recalibrating expectations around her. Let her be an energy rebounder. Let her develop without the constant superstar framing. And maybe over time she'll become the dominant inside presence people want her to be. But until then, it's a disservice to her and to the WNBA to keep pretending she's already there. Because when the hype and the production don't match, the disappointment is loud enough to drown out the many other players who are living up to their superstar billing. Over the past 3 games, Angel Reese has gone 8 for 26 from the field, and when you consider that most of her attempts are right at the rim, that's a glaring problem, because layups are supposed to be the easiest, highest percentage shots in basketball, yet she's missing them with alarming frequency. Her game is built on grabbing rebounds, putting the ball back up, and finishing inside. But lately the finishing card just hasn't been there. And that becomes more than just a personal slump when you remember she's the second most popular player in the WNBA, constantly paired with Caitlin Clark in media narratives. So for casual viewers who might tune in for the first time because they've heard of Angel Reese and expect to see a dominant force, it's a bad look to watch her struggle with point-blank shots, and it risks feeding the perception that the league as a whole is weak. Last year she was much more effective in her role, similar to an NBA comp like Andre Drummond, pulling down double-digit rebounds and getting plenty of putbacks, which is valuable but not superstar-level stuff. Yet the hype machine treats her like a marquee player when, on the floor, she's more of a role player. And right now not even an especially efficient one. It's unfair to her because she's just trying to hoop and get better. But the constant framing of her as Caitlin Clark's equal or rival means every miss is magnified. Especially when those misses come against defenders like Natasha Howard, who is not known as a strong interior presence. Yet in the recent Fever game we saw Reese beat her to the spot, get a wide-open layup, and still miss a pattern repeated on offensive rebounds where she goes up hurried and out of control instead of composed and strong. None of this is about her personality or anything off the court. It's strictly basketball. But the truth is that when your shot profile is almost all high percentage looks and you're hitting around 30%, that's a problem for both your team and your image. And if your popularity is driven more by social media and celebrity than by what you're doing on the court, that disconnect will eventually hurt the league's credibility. Reese doesn't need to be Caitlin Clark or Nika Ogwumik, but she does need to reliably finish the shots her role creates for her, because that's what will actually help her team and give fans a reason to stick around. Otherwise, the hype will keep setting her up for criticism she doesn't deserve and drowning out attention for the many WNBA players who are quietly delivering superstar-level performances every night.
It hasn't always been pretty, but we've turned it around and everything works for the greater good. And just leaning on his purpose for me, leaning on his.
All season long, Angel Reese has been missing layups at a rate that's hard to ignore. And even going back to last year, a year in which she finished at a much better percentage, you could still see the pattern of her leaving too many easy points on the floor, which is why it's baffling to me that she continues to be framed as the second most popular player in the WNBA, with some people talking about her like she's on Caitlin Clark's level. She's not, and pretending she doesn't help her team, or the league. In a recent game against the Fever, once again matched up against Natasha Howard, a defender known for poor interior presence, Reese went into the low post and executed the exact same predictable move she always does, making it easy for Howard to time and block her. If you're a power forward in the WNBA, you can't rely on one slow, telegraphed move over and over. You've got to vary your attack, put your body into the defender, and go up strong. But instead of exploding through contact, she goes up soft, underhand, and ends up either missing or getting blocked. The same trend showed in the Dallas game, first possession. She's matched up against a much smaller defender, the type you should bully under the rim if you're a front court player. Yet instead of attacking physically, she travels. Other power forwards Natasha Howard, even the struggling Nolissa Smith will put the ball on the floor, initiate contact, and finish. Reese doesn't. Instead, she sometimes settles for mid-range jumpers, and her form on those shots is, frankly, poor, a mechanical, awkward release that doesn't inspire confidence. And while I'm not trying to be comedic or cruel here, the visual of some of these shots almost invites laughter because it's so far from what you'd expect from a high-profile pro. Yet the issue isn't just that she misses, it's that she misses in situations where the play design, matchup, and spacing have done all the work for her. Take the transition play where she gets a steal, gives it up to the guard, gets it back wide open under the basket, and blows the layup. Then she grabs her own rebound and gets blocked. That's not just a missed chance, that's the kind of sequence that kills momentum. As a big, especially one who doesn't have a reliable outside shot, your job is to dominate the paint, get boards, make your putbacks, finish at the rim. Shooting percentages from distance aren't the concern. Layup efficiency is, and hers has been abysmal. The conversation about her is further complicated by the off-court narratives, the constant comparisons to Clark, the racial discourse, where people frame their fandom or criticism through identity politics rather than basketball. But strip all that away and the reality is that if she weren't hyped as a rival to Clark, we wouldn't be talking about her nearly this much. I don't make dedicated videos about Natasha Howard's bad games because she's not marketed as a superstar. Reese, on the other hand, is everywhere, positioned like a face of the league. So when she's producing like a bottom-tier starter, it makes the WNBA's promotional strategy look out of touch. And these aren't rare occurrences. In game after game, she bumps into defenders like Nolissa Smith, a player I've called out repeatedly for her own defensive flaws, and still gets her shot blocked. She always attacks from the same angles, finishes low instead of high, and never really uses her size advantage to its fullest. For a player her size, finishing underhand from below shoulder level against defenders is just asking for trouble. Then you see sequences where she gets a point-blank layup, misses, grabs the rebound, gets fouled, and still misses the follow-up. Even if it wouldn't have counted, it's indicative of her lack of touch. And this is coming from someone who earlier in the season was pushing for higher pay, threatening strike talk, and positioning herself as a marketable cornerstone. The WNBA does have legitimate stars worth building around. Caitlin Clark with her scoring and vision, Matthew Collier as an MVP fronter, Angel Wilson as a two-way force. But promoting a player who can't finish layups as one of the league's primary attractions is just bad business. I know talking about Reese in this way will draw backlash. I've been called an Uncle Tom before for critiquing her, which is ridiculous because my criticisms are strictly basketball related, and I'm black myself, but the point is, people who actually watch the games can see she doesn't pass the eye test. No one I know turns on a Sky game just to watch Angel Reese play unless it's out of personal loyalty or off-court fandom. From a purely basketball perspective, she belongs in the same tier as Natasha Howard or Nolissa Smith. Respectable, role players who can contribute in the right system, but nowhere near the Clark Collier